Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be learning how to tell time to the hour. So we are going to learn about the parts of the clock that make up the analog clock. There are two types of clocks. An analog clock that has the numbers as well as the two hands. We also have a digital clock, which a lot of you might know because it shows the time. We're going to talk more about the analog and digital clock in just a minute. Right now, you're going to get a chance to learn a little bit from our friend Moby. He is a Brain Pop Junior character, and he's going to help us learn a little bit more about the parts of the clock before we start telling the time. Pay close attention as she talks about the parts of the clock.
What you reading? You can't actually read a clock, Moby. Well, a clock doesn't tell you much of a story. It tells you the time. A clock doesn't actually talk. What is a clock? I know that a clock is a tool that we use to measure time, just like we use tools to measure height. All clocks measure the same time, even if they look really different. This is the type of clock we have in our classroom. And I have my own clock in my bedroom. And there's a clock in our living room. Oh yeah, and Grandpa has a clock on his arm. A watch. I guess clocks can tell time in different ways. Well, Grandpa's watch is digital, and the time is written out in numbers. And Mr. Patchouli says the clock in our classroom is analog. You have to figure out the time by looking at the face. What is the face of a clock? The face of a clock is the part with the numbers on it. Like on this clock, the face is the white part. There are 12 numbers that go around the face of a clock. Just like there are 12 inches on a ruler or 12 months in a year. The 12 is always on the top and the 6 is always on the bottom. But the face and numbers don't tell time by themselves. What do the hands on the clock do? The hands are the part of the clock that point to the numbers. I know they aren't really hands. That's just what they're called. The little hand is called the hour hand because it shows the hour. And the big hand is called the minute hand because it shows the minutes. While the minute hand goes all the way around the clock, the hour hand moves from one number to the next. So the hour hand moves slower than the minute hand. And the hands always move in one direction. It's called clockwise. No, the hands never go backwards. That's called counterclockwise. But check it out, Moby. There are clocks everywhere. I guess people need clocks to know the time. But why is time so important? Every morning my alarm clock wakes me up for school. Come on, Moby, it's time to wake up. We don't want to be late. I know the bus comes at 8 o'clock, so we have to make sure we're at the bus stop before it comes. I guess time is important because we used to plan the day. Moby, it's not time for lunch yet. There are a lot of times to remember, like our school starts at 8:30. And we have music at 2 o'clock. And I know the most important time of all, free time.
So guys, they had us telling about the different parts of the clock. Those are important to know. So now that we know the parts of the clock, let's talk a little bit more about that. I have a clock with me. This is an analog clock because it has the long minute hand and the short hour hand. Let's look at our chart to see how those work together. We measure time using clocks. That's true, but we can have different kinds of clocks. The analog clock is a clock that you might see in your classroom. It starts at the 12 and it goes all the way around back up to the 12. So there are 12 numbers on a clock. We have the short hour hand. It takes him an entire hour to move to the next number. So we say he's a little short and he's a little slow. He doesn't move very fast. But the long minute hand, that hand counts the minutes. And since minutes are such a short amount of time, he moves very fast. He moves all the way around the clock in 1 hour. So we have our hour hand who is short and slow, and then we have our minute hand who's long and fast because it only takes him 1 hour to get all the way around the clock. This right here is called our clock face. Our clock face is the part of the clock that has all the numbers and has the hands. That's how we read an analog clock. This time would be 3 o'clock. When that long minute hand is pointing to the 12, it say o'clock. So we would read this as 3 o'clock because the hour hand is pointing to the 3 and the minute hand is pointing to the 12. Did you know that there are 60 minutes in an hour? So it takes 60 minutes for the minute hand to go all the way back to the 12. I can count the numbers in minutes by fives, but we'll talk about that later. Right here, we're focusing on the hour hand. So whatever number this hand is pointing to, it tells you the hour. And we always say that first. If the hand is pointing to the 12, what do we say, guys? O'clock. On our digital clock, we have again the clock face that holds the time. But I noticed something different about our analog clock and the digital clock. Pause the video, take a moment of private think time. What do you notice between the analog clock and the digital clock? You're right. The analog clock has all of the numbers listed and it has the 2 hands. The digital clock only shows the time. So this we would read again as 3 because we put the hour first. We have a colon and 0, 0. And we know if it's pointing to the 12, there are 0, 0. So this would be 3 o'clock. This shows our hour. These show our minutes. So guys, we're going to get a chance to make some time on our analog clocks. You can use the clock that your teacher has provided for you, and you get to move your hands around the clock. So let's practice telling some times. I'm going to show you a time on my clock, and then I want you to show me that same time on your clock. Think about what time I'm showing. Remember, the hour hand names the hour, and when the minute hand is on the 12, it is o'clock. So what time would this be if my minute hand is at the 12 and my hour hand is pointing to the 2? Try it on your clock. Pause the video when you're ready. Great job, guys. So I see the hour hand is pointing to the 2, and I see the minute hands pointing to the 12. So this would be 2 o'clock. Let's try another one. What time is it? Take some private think time, pause the video, and when you're ready, hit play. Great job, mathematicians. I see that the hour hand is pointing to the 5, and the minute hand is pointing to the 12. So this would be 5 o'clock. Now how would that look on a digital clock? How would we write that time? Let's see. I have my board, and if I think correctly, I know that when we write the time on a digital clock, I'm just going to draw a rectangle for my clock. I name the hour first, and we said on the analog clock that our time was 5 o'clock. So on a digital clock, I would write 5. Then I would need my colon, so it's these 2 little dots in the middle. And what would I put for my minutes? When it says o'clock, I put 0, 0, because that is the beginning of the 5 o'clock hour. So 5 o'clock. Great job, guys. Now, you are going to sing along with me as we listen to a song called Paper Clocks. Now, you have your clocks handy. When the song says to show a time, you're going to move your hands in the clockwise direction and show that time on your clock. Are you ready? Let's get started.
I am a paper clock, I am, but I cannot move my hands. How I wish that I could tell the time. If you could help me move my hands, everything would be just grand. If you could help me tell the time, everything would be just fine. I want to say 4 o'clock, move my hands to 4 o'clock.
All right, guys. So you moved your hands to 4 o'clock. That would mean that my hour hand would move to the 4 and my minute hand would move to the 12. Check your clock. Did you show 4 o'clock?
I want to say 6 o'clock, move my hands to 6 o'clock.
All right, guys, move your hands to 6 o'clock.
I want to say 2 o'clock, move my hands to 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Your minute hand should be on the 12 and your hour hand on the 2.
I want to say 7 o'clock, move my hands to 7 o'clock.
Hour hand on the 7.
I want to say 10 o'clock, move my hands to 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
I want to say 3 o'clock, move my hands to 3 o'clock.
Great job, mathematicians.
I am a paper clock, I am, but I cannot move my hands. How I wish that I could tell the time. If you could help me move my hands, everything would be just grand. If you could help me tell the time, everything would be just fine.
Get ready.
I want to say 5 o'clock, move my hands to 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
I want to say 8 o'clock, move my hands to 8 o'clock. I want to say 11 o'clock, move my hands to 11 o'clock. I want to say 1 o'clock, move my hands to 1 o'clock. I want to say say 9 o'clock. Move my hands to 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
I want to say 12 o'clock. Move my hands to 12 o'clock.
So guys, think about it. If it is 12 o'clock, then both hands are pointing to the 12. You have your hour hand naming the 12, and then your O clock with your minute hand. Great job.
I am a paper clock, I am, but I cannot move my hand. How I wish that I could tell the time. If you could help me move my hands, everything would be just grand. If you could help me tell the time, everything would be just fine.
Great job, guys. You did some great thinking with your clocks. Remember that your hour hand points to your hour and your minute hand points to the 12 to say 4 o'clock. And we would write that with our digital clock in the same way that we wrote our 5. We would have our digital clock, and since I showed you 4 o'clock, we would say 4 o'clock. If I wanted to say 7 o'clock, I would write 7 o'clock. I noticed that when I'm saying o'clock, there's always 2 zeros at the end because that is the beginning of a new hour. So we have 2 zeros for o'clock. Make sure you always write your hour first and your minutes on the other end of the colon. Great thinking, guys. Now, I want to talk to you about a common misconception. Remember that a misconception is a wrong answer. You had the right thinking, but maybe you just made a mistake. So a misconception for time, if I wanted to say 3 o'clock, just like my clock here says, sometimes you might get confused and write 3:12. Does that say 3 o'clock? No. This part would be correct because my hour hand is on the 3. But remember, we don't say 3:12. When this is pointing to the 12, we say o'clock. And that would be 2 circles, or 2 zeros, I'm sorry, not circles. 2 zeros, because that is the beginning of the new hour. So this would be 3 o'clock, not 3:12. I hope you enjoyed learning about clocks today. I'm excited to see you practice your time to the hour on your clocks. Keep practicing, guys, and I will see you next time.